A warm welcome to a chat with the OAS, a virtual series by the Organization of American States to inform the people of the Americas of the work that the OAS does to serve them. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Shirlene Gittens. I am from St. Lucia and I am currently studying international relations at the University of the West Indies, Mona, where I am also a teaching assistant. Today's chat is being held in celebration of the 8th Inter-American Week for People of African Descent in the Americas, under the theme, I Have a Dream, Recognition, Justice, Development. In tribute to the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the theme pays homage to an iconic line from his own most renowned speeches. These venerable words, which have transcended time and generations, deftly capture the hopes and the aspirations of all humanity that come one day we will not be judged by our race, ethnicity, or creed, but rather that we will be accepted and celebrated for our shared morality and the array of diversity which add to humanity. To mark this inner to mark the Inter-American Week for People of America of African descent, the Office of the OAS General Secretariat in Jamaica partnered with the UE, particularly the Faculty of Social Sciences, to organize an art and poetry competition. A total of 17 contestants submitted their art and poetry. Their work was reviewed by a panel of judges who selected the top 3 candidates in each of the 2 categories of art and poetry. These finalists will be presenting their works of art and poetry to us today. I take this opportunity to thank and introduce the judges. Our first judge for today is Brianna Salmon, winner of the 2022 OAS Art and Poetry Competition in the poetry category and now a student at the University of the West Indies, Mona. Our second judge is Mr. Oden Mori, Acting Director of UE Marketing on the Mona campus. Our final judge is Dr. Mackenzie Tame, Senior Lecturer in the Department of Government at the University of the West Indies, Mona. After our
Charlene, it's not Mackenzie.
I beg your pardon, sorry?
It's Maziki Thame, not Mackenzie.
Oh, Maziki Thame, sorry. Thank you so much for that correction. After the presentations of art and poetry, we will give the judges some time to deliberate and have a keynote lecture by Dr. Stanley Niaah, Director of the Center of Repatriation Research at the University of the West Indies Mona campus on the theme, I Have a Dream, Recognition, Justice, Development. Before we begin, I would like to mention a few housekeeping matters for the audience and the finalists who will be presenting soon. First, to ensure that we minimize distractions for the various presenters and ourselves, please keep your microphones muted. As the program goes on, please feel free to tell us how you are enjoying the event via the chat, of course, keeping all comments appropriate and respectful. Finalists will have a maximum of 5 minutes each to present their work of art or poetry. The presentation for each work of art and poetry as it relates to the theme, I Have a Dream, Recognition, Justice, Development, will be the determining factor for the judges today. So please put your best foot forward. Finally, we are here to celebrate our youth and our shared culture and heritage. So on. Now we move to the opening remarks, which will be followed by the art and poetry presentations. I now give the floor to Dr. Lisa Vasiani, Deputy Dean for Partnerships and Resource Mobilization in the Faculty of Social Sciences of the University of the West Indies, Mona, for her opening remarks. Dr. Vasiani.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gittens. Good afternoon, everyone. Professor Stanley Niaah, Ms. Van Glennon Weigel, Dr. Tim, Mr. Murray, all our judges, distinguished students as well, all our contestants. Good evening, everyone. It's a tremendous honor to welcome you this year to our chat with the OAS as part of the 8th Annual Inter-American Week for People of African Descent. This celebration is a testament to the enduring strength, resilience, and vibrancy of people of African descent across the Americas. It is also an opportunity for us all to reflect on our shared commitment to building societies where equity, inclusion, and justice are not just aspirations, but also our lived realities. This year, we're thrilled to highlight the bright minds and voices of young people in our region through this competition. Having received submissions from both high school and university students, we are reminded of the incredible potential of all our youth and how much they can help to shape our future. A future rooted in the rich heritage and contributions of all our people. As this is the second time we are hosting this competition, it is heartening to witness its growth and the enthusiasm it inspired among the submissions. Each submission represents not only talent, but creativity, and also a deep engagement with the themes that unite us during this important week and beyond. Let us celebrate the achievements of all of you here today, all our young participants, recognizing that your voices will also help guide us toward a more inclusive inter-American hemisphere. Thank you in particular to Chanel Van Glennon Weigel and the Organization of American States generally for your continued leadership in promoting this annual commemoration. And thank you to everyone here today as we have this important dialogue through the arts. I hope we have a meaningful session. Welcome once again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vasiani. To deliver remarks on behalf of Ambassador Nestor Mendez, the Assistant Secretary General of the OAS, I now invite his advisor, Ms. Kendall Bisley. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Kendall Bilal, it's okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Giddens. Professor Stanley Niaah, Director of the Center for Reparation and Research of the University of the West Indies, Mona Campus, and our featured guest this afternoon, Dr. Lisa Bassiani, Associate Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences of the UWI Mona Campus, Janelle Van Glennon Weigel, OAS representative in Jamaica, our moderator today, Ms. Charlene Gittens, teaching assistant in international relations, all of our distinguished viewers in our virtual audience, a pleasant good evening. I bring remarks on behalf of the Assistant Secretary General of the Organization of American States, Ambassador Nestor Mendez, who would have wished to be here this afternoon, but unfortunately, due to an unexpected commitment, is unable to join, but he sends his warmest regards. As mentioned earlier, this year's 8th edition of the Inter-American Week for People of African Descent in the Americas is being observed under the theme, I Have a Dream, Recognition, Justice, Development, which pays partial tribute to an iconic phrase coined by the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the revered American social activist and freedom fighter who led the civil rights movement in the United States in the 1960s. This year's theme also reflects the theme of this recently announced United Nations Second International Decade for People of African Descent, which will run from 2025 this year to 2034. In this respect, the theme for this year is intended to acknowledge the history of slavery, an institution that lasted for over 200 years, recognize that the legacy of slavery still permeates through our societies even today, and focus on how we can achieve development by building a future of dignity and justice for all. The week, which ran from March 24th to March 28th, was officially launched last Monday at OAS headquarters here in Washington, D.C., and was marked by a series of online and in person activities. Several of the activities also took place in various OAS member states under the diligent leadership of our representatives in the national offices, which brings us to today's event. I wish to thank Representative Van Glanenwegel for organizing today's lecture, as well as the art and poetry competition in commemoration of this very seminal week. The arts undoubtedly play an integral role in storytelling and upliftment, serving as a vessel to pass down to generations the lived memories and shared experiences of communities. We look forward to the presentations of the art and poetry by the finalists and the announcement of the winners. To Professor Niaah, we thank you for your participation in today's lecture and look forward to what we know will be an insightful and thought-provoking presentation. As this year's Inter-American Week marks the final commemoration under the leadership of Assistant Secretary General Mendez and his office, on his behalf, I wish to once again thank each and every one of you for participating in today's lecture and art and poetry competition, and to you, Representative Van Glanenwegel, for all of your steadfast work and support throughout the years. We also extend our thanks to all of those joining us online, as we know that today's event will be enlightening as it will be engaging. We look forward to a fruitful discussion. I thank you.
Thank you so much for this introduction on behalf of Ambassador Mendez. Now we move on to our presentation, and this is the time that we've all been waiting for. This segment will feature presentations by the students who have, after initially submitting their works of art and poetry, have advanced to the finals today. I take this opportunity to congratulate all our contestants and their teachers. Remember, finalists, you each have a maximum of 5 minutes for your presentation. I now invite our first participant in the category of poetry, Ms. Shadane Taylor. Ms. Shadane Taylor is 17 years old, and her work is titled Land We Want to Love. Ms. Taylor.
Good afternoon. May I please have one moment to set up? I have to perform at a specific place in my room. Okay. Good afternoon, judges, speakers, and my fellow contestants. As was mentioned, my name is Shandani Taylor. I am 17 years old and I currently attend Campion College. My piece is a poem entitled Jamaica Land I Want to Love, an acrostic that spells out I dream of recognition, justice, development. It reflects my experiences as a teenager living in a beautiful country that unfortunately is not living up to its full potential, and it conveys my yearning for a better Jamaica. Jamaica land I want to love. I close my eyes and conjure images of swarms of people gathered by shorelines, digging my toes into imaginary warm sand. Over us all, the hot Jamaican sun shines. Reflections of euphoric smiles distort in blue waters. Waves come in with the ocean's tide. Everyone dances gleefully along to smooth reggae tunes right there by my side. Anguish strikes me viciously. Realization hits and my fantasy lifts. Money stacks higher each day, erecting a barrier between myself and my nation's gifts. Oasis is barricaded by foreign security guards on the very land I was born in. Fees are demanded of me to enjoy all that my home has to offer, much to my chagrin. Record setters, record holders, struggle bearers. Every man Jack marvels at our music. You fancy our rhythm, you dismiss our blues. Covet our athletes whose feet bolt down tracks. You ignore those who can't afford shoes. Oblivious foreigners fantasize about our beaches. Naturally, just as I do, guessing we sit on Palm Beach and Bonasquith. We can't afford to be there as much as you. Negro Nation, of course, run by the wealthy white man. Ignorant people, well trained dogs, obediently await approval by his wealthy white hand. They bellow out claims that out of many, we are one, ignoring our failing youth who stand uneducated on both sides of a gun. Our crime rate outshines our records. Our reality bleeds copiously all over your illusion. Nation divided by wealth, the bottom begs for your recognition. Please cease your delusion. Juvenile jails filled by dozens each day, and we dig more holes for caskets than crops. Under systems left behind by Massa and his crew, we disillusion suffer daily in reality. Scornful churchgoers beat shame into free thinkers with the white man's book of immorality. Treacherous politicians stuff us with lies and their pockets with our riches. Ignorantly, we boast our record number of churches, as unrighteous as this country is. Crowned on the bloody top 10 list of crime, we elude all that our island deserves to be. Everything I read, that's your foolish belief. Hear our cry for justice. Stop ignoring our plea. Desperately, I yearn for us to be better. Every action taken in this country should be to Orland a love letter. Venerable Miss Jamaica should grow to match her informal title as Heart of the Caribbean. Empty pockets should fill as economic shifts benefit all, black or white, man or woman. Longing and fury bubble over in my heart with each second I indulge these naive ambitions. Outrage should push our innovation, or vexation should force structural revisions. Prison should die out more than innocent people on the streets. Men should no longer make a habit of stopping each other's heartbeats. Everyone should be treated fairly. We should be so proud to live here, borderline conceited. No one should have to live in fear of being constantly mistreated. This country deserves what I dream of, what I yearn for each day, a future of recognition, justice, and development in every way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Taylor, for this lovely poem. We now move on to contestant number 2, Chanel Webster or Chanelly Webster, in the category of art. Webster is a 19-year-old with the work entitled A Dream of Yearning for a Better Future.
Give me a second to set up. Good evening, everyone, fellow contestants and judges. I dream of yearning for a better future. Martin Luther King's speech, I Have a Dream, spoke of freedom and equality for all, especially within the context of America. An important line states, I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self evident that all men are created equal. In relation to this theme, we see the importance of freedom and equality, not only for Americans, but for all individuals in any race, culture, and color. The image is a mixed media using paint, colored pencils, and ink, depicting the dream and yearning for a better future, one in which justice is valued. Each individual of the society values justice, they and their country grow into a lush tree where development is evident. However, this dream may seem far-fetched to many as we have a root of a problem. And this root of the problem is the history of injustice and separation throughout the rings of time that have created a stump on development. As trees grow, each year is represented in the form of a ring. They remain rooted in the ground, gathering nutrients and water to keep growing. And we can see it here. However, as people of African descent, it is important that we too remain rooted in our history and culture to understand who we are and where we are coming from. This recognition allows us to see, most importantly, where we are going. But in the foreground of the image, we see a young lady. She's trying to climb up, reaching for the new life of peace and justice. Yet below her, there are many individuals pulling her down. This shows that the stump lies within us. Versions of ourselves that see our differences instead of the similarities. It is each one of us that choose to tear down each other. This is a crab in a barrel mentality. And until we as the human race collectively realize the value of each other and have justice prevail, we will keep seeking development in our dreams. And I believe that is the end of my presentation. I'm not sure if you can see properly. Yes, sorry about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Webster. We now move on to our third contestant, Ms. Dejanay Allison, in the category of poetry. Ms. Allison is 16 years of age and her work is entitled Destiny.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dejanay Allison. As said before, I'm 16 years old from Campion College, and my poem is titled Destiny. It's a metaphorical allusion to the Black injustice that spreads across generations. I hope that as you listen and observe, you'll enjoy this and relate to it, as regardless of the time, all Black people want is recognition, justice, and development. Me tell that girl mother don't name her no destiny. Cause Black people don't have good destiny upon them side. But so said, so done. Destiny she was called. And time prove history once again. My grandpickiny was a bright spark, not a book in the world she never know. She practiced guitar, flute, all one name, trombone. My destiny was shaping her destiny. Or at least so I thought it would go. When destiny come on, she would always greet me with a smile. No, to my dismay, Destiny's care or affection wouldn't even sway my way. No, when Destiny come home, and I ask, let me see your class papers. All the grades range from 18 to 38%. Totally unlike who my Destiny was before. She would have on herself right before slamming our bedroom door. One day, under the hot pelting sun, with this satisfaction and frustration bubbling up, shot up to that school, peering through the gates. And what I saw left me with a bitter taste. There my destiny bent, picking up trash under some white boy's feet. There my destiny chopped, weeding away some white boy's garden. There my destiny gave away all of her school days to that white boy. And there I stood, immobile, on the tails of my destiny's fate. When destiny came home, I simply held her, for I could do no more. Neither could my grandmother console me from pains of my destiny, while she tried to relieve phantom pains from physical wounds or from her own. As my destiny wept, I hummed. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Patting her back softly to the tomb of Ramsey Lewis, uttering a silent prayer. So help me, God, may you let it be, that you'll stir these still waters that have been stagnant for centuries. Destiny chuckles at the offbeat pacing of my tune, an omen that went too long unnoticed until that summer Sunday, where that same white boy took the floor at church to read the first lesson, 1 Peter 2, verse 18, like mockery to our faces. Destiny asked me, Mama, when will I be seen? I don't know, my dear. For too long have our faces been erased from history. Destiny asked me, Mama, why is it that no one is willing to hear me? I don't know, my dear. For too long have our stories been erased for the white regime. Destiny asked me, Mama, must I only dream of Salvation Day for you and me? I don't know, my dear, for the result of our destiny is as wretched as our rotten history. There's always wanty that never gets it, and getty that never wants it. We Black people have always been wanting. It's every tale of sorrow. We never demanded it. So the words bubbled up, yet I could not say them. Ramsey Lewis twirls in my head, my destiny humming his tune. We walk hand in hand back to our humble abode, mentally resigning to stirring the water with the stamps of our very own feet. My time is almost up, but my destiny has just started. Through her steps will they recognize Black ability, constructed and crafted. Mama, freedom must come if I make the first move. Through her speech will they serve us all justice from being disregarded. Mama, I shouted for my freedom today, and the white boy finally left me alone. Through her movement, there will be development. Proof that Black excellence has always existed. Mama, save so much people from those white boys. The school is finally taking action. Rerouting the road of our destiny, shaping the pot of our history. Mama, I am your destiny. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Allison. We now move on to our next contestant. I invite Mr. Jaheim Watson, who would use sign language, and his teacher, Miss Taylor, of the Lester Meyer Gilby High School for the Deaf, who will interpret Mr. Watson's presentation to us. Mr. Watson is presenting in the category of art, and he is 21 years old. His work is entitled, I Have a Dream, Recognition, Justice, Development. Mr. Watson and Miss Taylor.
Good afternoon. He will start in just 1 minute. He's setting up to turn on his camera. He's having a little trouble adjusting his camera. If you just give him a few minutes, please. Thank you. He says something is wrong, so he's trying to sort out what's wrong with his device's camera.
Okay, thank you. Miss, should we move on to the next contestant and give Miss
Yes,
Pearl
please, because I'm
1
not
second?
sure why it's not working. He's trying to
Okay.
fix. They can go ahead as soon as he adjusts. Sorry about that.
It's okay. So we'll move on to our next contestant, Miss Abigail Wilson, in the category of poetry. Miss Wilson is 17 years of age, and her work is entitled The Dreams We Carry. Miss Wilson?
Good afternoon, esteemed judges, distinguished guests, and fellow participants. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once stood before the world and declared, "I have a dream." His words echoed through time, shaping movements and inspiring change. But his dream was not just his own. It was built on the courage of those before him and carried forward by those after. When I sat down to write this poem, I thought about what it truly means to dream, not just for ourselves, but for the generations before us and those yet to come. I was drawn to the powerful words of Dreaming Black Boy by James Berry. His poem gives voice to a young Black boy yearning for dignity, fairness, and freedom in a world that too often denies him those things. His dream is simple yet profound: to be seen, to be valued, to exist without fear or limitation. That longing still resonates today, and it made me ask myself, what do we do with the dreams we inherit? The theme of recognition, justice, and development is not just a reflection of the past. It is a challenge for the present. How do we ensure that recognition is not just given to the few, but restored to the many? How do we make justice more than a whispered plea? How do we build a future where no one is left to hope in vain? These are the questions that shaped my poem, The Dreams We Carry, because dreams are not solely meant to be remembered. They are meant to be lived, fought for, and passed on. I have a dream, not born of chains, not carved from wounds or scorched by flames, but shaped by voices, bold and free, who paved this path for you and me. I do not bear the whips they knew, yet walk the roads their courage drew. Their echoes rise, their truth remains, no ceilings left disguised as plains. Recognition for voices praised, and for the ones whose names were erased, for those whose deeds were left unsung, whose quiet strength remains undone. Justice, not a whispered plea, but written bold for all to see. Not mercy begged, nor fleeting grace, but steadfast rights that hold their place. Development, a world set free, where dreams take root like mighty trees, where knowledge shines, where none are chained, where no one's left to hope in vain. I dream of streets where fear won't reign, of books where truth is clear and plain, of hands unbound, of voices strong, of futures forged where all belong. We carry the dream not in words alone, but in the weight of all we do, in speaking when silence is easier, in learning what time tried to erase, in lifting others as we climb, knowing no dream is truly ours alone. We carry it in courage, in the quiet choice to stand, in the hands that build, in the hearts that refuse to yield. The dream is not a memory, it is a task, a duty, a promise. And we carry it forward with every choice we make. And so I ask, if not now, when? If not us, who? Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Wilson. We now move on to our next contestant. Let me just check in. Is Jaim, ready? If not, we'll move on to the
He's
second
changing his
contestant.
device because the camera on the other device is giving challenges. So I'm waiting for him to relog in on a new device.
Okay, no problem. So in the meantime, we'll move on to our next contestant, Mr. Ansel Cummins. In the category of art, Mr. Cummins is 17 years old and his piece is entitled Increase of Gentrification and its Effects on Colonial Architectural Styles. Mr. Cummins?
Good afternoon, judges, guests, and fellow contestants. My name is Ansel Cummings. I'm a student of Camden College, and this is my piece. If we can see it. Yeah, everybody see it? Okay. Under the theme, I have a dream, recognition, justice, and development. I have chosen to explore the imminent loss of culture within the Caribbean, which I think demands our recognition, justice, and subsequent development. One of the most pressing issues contributing to this loss is gentrification, a process where wealthier individuals move into urban areas, altering designs, attracting new businesses, and in many cases, displacing long-standing residents. This transformation often comes at the cost of history and identity, as the cultural and architectural elements that define these spaces are gradually erased. Through this piece, I aim to reflect on the rapid gentrification taking place today and its impact on the history, the key marker of our Caribbean's past told in the structure that we see around us, a past that we shouldn't forget. This is a visual representation of what this means for the nation's heritage and the cultural narratives embedded in these structures. In the artwork, oh boy, the darkening sky looms over a once grand building, signaling an approaching storm. However, this storm is not just of nature, but a metaphor for the looming forces of change. As you can see, the other side is lighter. The ominous red hand reaching over the structure, coupled with the presence of jokers riding bees, represents the disruptive and often chaotic nature of gentrification. These figures symbolize unpredictability, the relentless force of urban transformation, and the dismantling of historical landmarks in the name of modernization. Colonial architecture is one of the most tangible links to Caribbean history. Landmarks such as Rose Hall Great House and Belfield Great House serve as enduring reminders of the region's past. The building in my piece is actually inspired by the historic Devon House Mansion, if anybody remember what that looked like. A significant representation of British Georgian style architecture in the Caribbean. However, in this depiction, the once distinctive structure is stripped of its ornate details and vibrant character. It's white and black. This is telling of the loss of architectural identity, metaphor for the broad cultural heritage. And up here, symbols gentrification and its sweeping influence on society. The Joker playing cards are often tied to themes of chaos, depiction, unpredictability. Their presence in my artwork is the idea that gentrification does not always follow a linear or predictable pattern. It can manifest in various ways, sometimes as progress, while simultaneously eroding the historical and cultural foundations of the community. Ultimately, the message behind this piece is that Caribbean culture is being drained, often without recognition or resistance. These historic buildings, which hold centuries of stories, are frequently overlooked and undervalued, left vulnerable to demolition or drastic alteration. My dream is that these structures and the history they represent are given the recognition they deserve, ensuring that they are not needlessly destroyed in the name of modernization. True development does not mean erasing the past, but rather embracing and integrating it into the future. I want these structures to last as a testament to what these countries have experienced, because as Marcus Garvey said, a people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. As a society, we must commit to protecting and preserving the rich heritage of the Caribbean, ensuring that its architectural and cultural legacy endures for generations to come. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cummins.
Yes, Jaheem is ready. I'm gonna ask if the screen can be shared. We had sent in his artwork.
Okay, just give me 1 second, please. One of the judges has a question. We're gonna give her the floor for a moment and then we will move on to Jaheim.
I actually want to wait until all of them are done.
Okay, no problem. So our final contestant, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Jaheim Watson. Mr. Watson is competing in the category of art. He is 21 years old and his work is entitled, I Have a Dream, Recognition, Justice, Development.
Yes, can the screen be shared for his artwork, please? So we can pop it up on the screen as he presents. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I am. I am trying to.
Okay, thank you.
I was looking for the function to give you guest access, but Mrs. McDavid, can you help her giving her access so that she could share her screen?
Okay, give me a second. Let me see.
Okay. Miss Taylor, it says that everybody has access to share the screen, so you should be able to see a share screen button somewhere on your screen. Next to the icon for the audio, the video, I think following that should be the share screen option. Are you saying that?
It's actually an arrow at the bottom. It's green.
Oh, I didn't realize I was muted. Sorry. Hello, good evening. My name is Jaheim Watson, and that is my name sign. As you can see, my work is there on the screen. My artwork matches the theme. I have a dream. Recognition, justice, and development. My concept for this theme, my concept for this theme is shown in my drawing about Jamaica and Africa uniting. So you see three persons. Who are they? Who are they? They were brave persons who were fighting for our freedom. First person, as you can see, Paul Bogle. He was a leader who marched for justice and fair treatment for all the people of Jamaica. Second person, as you can see, they're depicted, Marcus Garvey. He emphasized unity between Africans and our African diaspora. The third person, the other person, the gentleman that you see at the top, he's Nelson Mandela. Yes, Mandela. He was the country's first Black politician. His government focused on what? His government focused on dismantling the legacy of apartheid by fostering racial reconciliation. Bob Marley, who was he? He was a singer, a songwriter. Right. He was a singer, songwriter. He's asking if his screen is shut down. Right. He was a songwriter and a guitarist. Yes, he played the guitar. He liked reggae, ska, and rock steady. And Bob Marley, his music gave people a sense of spirituality, love, and peace. Moving on. Music is a big part of Jamaica's culture. And it helps us free our minds from everyday problems in life. Yeah, problems that we have, the stress that we face. It helps to promote togetherness, positive vibes. And in slavery, people use music and food to free their minds rather, from the pressures of the world. Moving on. In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., free at last, free at last. Great God Almighty, we are free at last. Free to express ourselves through our culture, music, dance, food, and our heritage. Two countries that have overcome the bonds of slavery. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Watson. Thank you so much to all our contestants. Dr. Tame had a question. Do you want to go ahead with your questions right now, Dr. Tame?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Ansel if he could explain a bit more why he chose, or rather, what is the place of colonial architecture in his idea of gentrification?
Good afternoon again. I think that, can you repeat the question?
I'm just wondering, so you are highlighting the problem of gentrification and you are thinking through it with colonial architecture. a picture that suggests relations of domination rather than liberation. So I'm wondering why you chose that type of architecture to represent.
I see colonial architecture as a piece of our culture, not as something holding down our culture. It's not necessarily a stamp of domination over us. I think it's a part of us. It's building us up. Even in our foods, we don't see I don't know what they brought, but whatever they brought as a part of, we don't see it as domination over our culture. We see it as a part of it. It's a build up. So when you come to Jamaica, you expect to see Jamaica. You don't expect to see whatever or whoever is overrunning Jamaica currently. We want to see what is this country? What is it made of? Who was here? What did they do? And I think that's why colonial architecture has a place in Jamaica and the Caribbean.
All right, thanks. And I also wanted to ask the poets, Dejeuner and Shandini. In the case of Dejeuner's poem, what is the reference to the white boy? I'm wondering about your time period. I'm wondering, how this figure is located in the present. And a similar question for Shandini in that the reference to, your lamentation is about the kind of internal dynamics, internal relations of conflict, but your reference to white ownership is invoking something else. And I wondered if you could both explain those references a bit.
Of course, I'd be very happy to explain. So, understanding that the persona in this poem is the grandmother, she's definitely lived through the past and has experienced the past, which is what makes the scene of her granddaughter picking up the white boy's trash, weeding the white boy's garden, seem almost murky, almost indescribable, or it's not definite. That's because she's merging her memories in a sense, or what she's used to, and describing the image that she's seeing um using her own personal history. So going back to the first line of that stanza, under the hot pelting sun, marching up to the school, it's imagery that provides almost a scene of like a plantation, even further aided by the weeding, the chopping, the giving your life away. So it's really just modern day bullying. The white boy is bullying and oppressing her granddaughter, but through her eyes, it's something deeper. And the only way for her to understand it is by putting it in a context that she can understand, which is relating it to slavery days, days that were before freedom, which is why it seems so intertwined with a past period.
Thanks. Shandini, you can go ahead.
Good afternoon, Dr. Fame. Okay, so in relation to my line about ownership from the white man, the lines I believe you're specifically referencing were the ones that said, Negro nation run by the wealthy white man, ignorant people await approval by his wealthy white hand. That line was intended to be both literal and figurative. Literal, more straightforward, being that a lot of ownership belongs to white people in this country that is mostly made up of Black and Indigenous individuals. For example, calling back to my first stanza about the beaches, a lot of our beaches are owned by hotel owners who have bought a section, and you can only really gain access to that by paying. And it's something that's native to our country. It's natural. It's of our land. And it's owned and ran and protected by foreign ownership and white individuals. And the figurative meaning is more reflected in the second line of that reference, where it said, ignorant people await approval by his wealthy white hand. So, okay, alongside the fact that a lot of the richest people in this country are white individuals, structures left behind by colonialism still hold true to this day. Even though a majority of the people in this country are Black, we still face racial discrimination in areas such as colorism and texturism. Darker skinned individuals with tighter curl patterns are still discriminated against, even though we make up the majority of individuals in this country. So even though it's not very out there and obvious, like we have a Black prime minister, we have a mostly Black parliament, but the white man still controls how we think and how we act and how we move through our lives daily. And that's what I meant. Thank you for your question.
All right, thanks. That was it, Charlene.
Okay, thank you so much, Justice Lane. So thank you once again, contestants. Audience, please join me in congratulating all our finalists for sharing their art and poetry with us. Dejane, Abigail, Shadani, Charlene, Janelle, and Sel, thank you so very much. You've given our judges much to deliberate on. At this moment, I invite the judges to go into the breakout room to deliberate. And now, as they do that, I now invite Dr. Stanley Niaah, Director of the Center for Repatriation Research at the University of the West Indies Mona campus, to entice us with a lecture under the theme of the fifth lecture titled I Have a Dream: Recognition, Justice, and Development.
Thank you so much. I really want to say thank you to the OAS team. My thanks to Janelle Van Glan Vigel. My thanks to the Faculty of Social Science team for this invitation. It is my pleasure to share with you today and to really be a part of this fantastic, inspirational event. I wish to commend the OAS for the commitment to struggles for anti-racism and reducing racial injustice through observations such as these. I also wish to acknowledge that as a staff member representing the UWI Mona campus, I recognize and declare that the land on which we operate as an institution of higher learning is the original or traditional territory of many peoples. The UWI acknowledges a First Nation comprising the indigenous people who were displaced by the Columbus Project and general European colonization, and the hundreds of Africans who toiled for more than 100 years as enslaved people on the old Papine sugar estate. The UWI recognizes their labor and sacrifices in preserving this land that has enabled the establishment of a university that now provides opportunities for many of their descendants to receive an education that they themselves were denied. Now, in this 8th Inter-American Week for People of African Descent, I cannot tell you how really pleased I am to see and to hear, to see the works, to hear the works, to feel the energy of these young people who have shared from both the secondary and the tertiary levels. It is absolutely inspirational for me. I think clearly there were some right things being done in our classrooms, because I hear the eloquence, I hear the passion, I hear the commitment to justice, I hear the commitment to development, and I hear the commitment to recognition. In this year, obviously, the OAS has done something right, and I did hear that this was the second year for this, this kind of event. I considered a number of things as I was asked to give this talk. I recall my own high school experience and choosing to focus on Martin Luther King in the writing of a paper on my favorite personality for a social studies class assignment. And just as with Marcus Garvey today in Jamaica, students would have to step toward their own inclinations in the way that I did to engage in any real way with Marcus Garvey, with Martin Luther King, and these kinds of thinkers. And I'm particularly standing on the shoulders today of Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, our stalwarts, thinkers, Rex Nettleford, Charles Mills, and so on. And I just, you can let me know if you're seeing my screen and seeing the slides changing. So I have a dream, indeed. I have a dream that our education in this country can really produce the kind of passion, the kind of commitment, the kind of determination that I hear in the voices of these young people. But there's so much further for us to go. As I considered the invitation to do this talk even further, the theme brought me in mind of my own dreams for education and the questions surrounding educational reform in the Caribbean. I was particularly excited to note that this commemoration took the form of artistic engagement and an exhibition with submissions from youth students. It made me consider my own years of schooling and teaching and the questions around creative work that have emerged, for example, in the context of career choices for students at the primary, secondary, and tertiary levels. But most of all, it made me consider the state of our societies across the Americas, vulnerable populations in many parts, still emerging from the trauma of a history of enslavement and colonialism. In attempts to grapple with this history, artists, musicians, writers, and creative workers of all sorts have documented the state of our societies, paying close attention to the myriad social crises. And I want to begin with a song from Junior Murvin, and I know I'm going to age myself now, but I'm going to tell you, young people, you're going to Google Junior Murvin, Police and Thief, and maybe you have heard this song, but I'm going to read some of the lines for you. Police and thief police and thieves in the streets, oh yeah, fighting the nation with their guns and ammunition. Police and thieves in the streets, oh yeah, scaring the nation with their guns and ammunition. From Genesis to Revelation, oh yeah, but the next generation will be, hear me, all the crimes committed day by day. No one tried to stop it in any way. All the peacemakers turn war officers. Hear what I say. And this song was so popular. This song was so popular in the 70s. It was even re-recorded by a group in the United Kingdom. This is a really, I mean, people might even consider this song to be a sort of the biggest hit of Junior Murvin. It has certainly defined his career. I have a dream that all the crimes committed by day and night will one day halt. Junior Murvin lamented the conditions in the 1970s in which I grew up as a Jamaican. Going to school in Hanover in the formative years of my life, the period is most remembered for intense political rivalry, violence, and prominent interference of an imperial variety in the Caribbean and Central American countries. The intense political ferment had its foundations in decades, indeed centuries of instability. The conditions were well known to colonial powers. Let's go back a little bit to the 1940s. In this time, I have to speak to you. I want to focus a bit on education. I want to take us back to some of the evidence of social instability and conditions of despair. And I speak here also about the kind of instability that caused the Moyne Commission to be established for reporting on the conditions in the British West Indies. So the conditions were well known to colonial powers. And I have entitled this section of the presentation, Policing the Education Crisis is Better Than Policing with Symptoms. So here we have a Moyne Commission sent to Jamaica the report of 1945 following civil and labor unrest, calling for educational reform, taking center stage, we see that this kind of educational reform and questions around education also come to us from institutions like the World Bank in 2025. So the very Moyne Commission of 1945, that report, the Moyne report, just like the World Bank's 2025 report on education in the Caribbean, highlighted deficits which can be traced back to the plantation system under colonialism. The findings were generally thought to reflect that citizens of the West Indies were overburdened by injustices of the past, which they were carrying along with centuries of neglect. In the case of the Moyne Commission, the Colonial Development and Welfare Act was passed in 1940 to engage long-term reconstruction, ultimately an attempt to keep empire together. The lack of commitment to achieving recommendations of the Moyne report was appreciable, and the Caribbean has remained a region with systematic inequality with an exponentially high need for socioeconomic reform. The Moyne Commission suggested educational reform, and as you all know, in 2025, we're still talking about educational reform. Some of the achievements following the implementation of the report were things like organizational restructuring, increased school infrastructure, and establishment of the West Indies School of Public Health. Now, I said earlier that the World Bank also in 2025 launched a report which mirrored some of the kinds of concerns reflected in the Moyne report. In the case of the World Bank, country director for the Caribbean explained the crisis in education in a February 17, 2025 webinar as jeopardizing the future of the Caribbean. And she highlighted the critical challenge with failing systems that today deliver low literacy, numeracy, and critical thinking skills from teaching practices which have remained traditional inside rigid curricula. Low teacher recruitment standards and static instructional methods, some of these are the highlights of that 2025 report. What is clear, therefore, is that the same concerns around educational infrastructure and curriculum from the Moyne Commission of 1945 report reappear in this World Bank report. Are we closer, I will ask, to achieving the outcomes in education we need for advancing on regional development? And I want to suggest that we have to do some other things. We have to ask some more critical questions about what we want of education. So I want to take a pause for repair. When we talk about reparation, which is, I now am the director of the Center for Reparation Research, and it just so happens that reparation was always a part of my thinking. I came to reparatory justice as a scholar, as an academic, through my work on Jamaican popular culture, on Caribbean popular culture. And so I now have focused my attention in a very real sense on what that larger question of repair looks like for addressing the entire human experience. And I want to go back to art. I want to go back to this question of what it means to engage with repair, and engage with repair at the level of thought, at the level of remembering. In my bid to improve recognition, take responsibility toward the justice and development we desire, it is important to remember. So I want to stand again, as I said earlier, on the shoulders of the giants such as Garvey, Martin Luther King, Rex Nettleford, and Charles Mills, who engage in the task of Black self-baking. Under the banner of Pan-Africanism through ideology, arts, governance, and various initiatives, key personalities of the African diaspora, namely the Caribbean, Latin America, and the USA, pushed for unity and self-reliance among African peoples. The Caribbean's role in the establishment and sustenance of Pan-Africanist ideology is unquestionable. And I'm talking here about Trinidad's Henry Sylvester Williams, at the level of the grassroots organizing and the activism, Marcus Garvey from Jamaica with the UNIA, and the institutionalization through conferences and congresses, associations, journalism, governance structures, and the arts. Pan-Africanism was consolidated by the 1960s through, among other things, the cultural, spiritual, and artistic expression. So we're talking about arts, the paintings, literary works, musical genres, such as Jamaican reggae, have been central with expressions of Pan-Africanist thought. African diaspora and artist messengers use reggae, for example, as a means to call out down pressers, organize, centralize, and argue for repatriation and reparation in very real ways. So there are things you can feel in the blood, and there are things you can know in your veins. I think now of our creative artists and remind us here of the role of the artist and the simultaneous threat using words from a very famous writer, Toni Morrison. And if you've never heard of Toni, I know you're a bright literature student, some of you must have heard the name Toni Morrison. And this is what I want to share with you of Toni Morrison's words. And I quote, "I want to remind us all that art is dangerous. I want to remind you of the history of artists who have been murdered, slaughtered, imprisoned, chopped up, refused entrance. The history of art, whether it's in music or written or what have you, have always been bloody because dictators and people in office and people who want to control and deceive know exactly the people who will disturb their plans. And those people are artists. They're the ones that tell the truth. And it's something that the society has got to protect. But when you enter that field, whether it's Sonia's poetry or Tosh's music, rather startlingly clear prose, it's a dangerous pursuit and somebody is out to get you. You have to know it before you start and do it under those circumstances because it is one of the most important things that human beings do. Art, one of the most important things that human beings do. So I'm talking to you all as artists, as persons who are using the medium of art for expression that must take on the charge of helping societies remember. As we celebrate diversity and inclusion in our region and acknowledge the history of slavery as an institution that lasted for over 200 years, legacies of which still permeate our societies today, we will need to address justice and development in systematic ways that address the whole human experience. One task, therefore, I am insisting is to remember, and our artists have consistently reminded us. In fact, the capitalist imperialist impulse that led Europe to the West Indies precipitated a series of dislocations and destructions. But Morgan, in her 2024 text, makes on trauma, makes the point that there are profound acts of unsilencing of the unspeakable from the violence, internal and external. The trauma of the Middle Passage was hitherto relegated to the subterranean realms of the supernatural, of myth, and so on. Here, she's referencing the shadows that manifest in shame at the inability to leave the past in the past. And many of you, you may be too young, but I want you to remember that it was in fact David Cameron, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in the now infamous 2015 visit, said with gross insensitivity that Jamaica and by extension other countries of the region with a history of chattel slavery should just move on from the painful legacy. We should just move on. Just like that. Get up one day and just move on. Morgan, in her 2014 text on trauma, surveys a band of Caribbean writers, artists, or people with artistic expression just like you. Erna Brodber, Earl Lovelace, Jean Rees, George Lamming, Olive Sr., Opal Palmer Adisa, V.S. Naipaul, Derek Walcott, Norbesi Phillip, John Hearn, Barbara Lalla, Michelle Cliff, Paul Marshall, among many others. And they have kept us on a journey of remembering alongside musicians, songwriters, playwrights, and liberation thinkers. And you all are joining that list of persons in this endeavor. So where are we going from here? What are the strategic moves that we must make? The OAS is obviously onto something with this event, with this commemoration, with this competition. And as we occupy this dream space, I want us to consider, let me move to the next slide. I've been talking ahead of my slides. I want us to consider Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you've not heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this is an important introduction for you. That in a Western sort of reality, self-fulfillment of needs, self-actualization, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities, is at the apex. Your physiological needs, your basic needs, your need to eat, need to sleep, safety, the other one, at the orange, the green, belongingness and love needs, esteem needs, prestige, feeling of accomplishment, and so on. But at the apex, I want us to focus here, self-fulfillment at the apex. And I want to ask the question, what does self-fulfillment for an Afro-descendant, Afro-Caribbean person living in a post-colonial society where there is this struggle continuously for recognition, justice, and development? What does that look like? What does self-actualization look like? In fact, what must we chart in terms of an education system that focuses on that citizen in terms of justice, development, and recognition? What does that look like? And we're talking here about some of the very fundamental things as we occupy this dream space with hopes and aspirations for our societies. I wonder if there is an African expression for this kind of hierarchy. And I know that there are, if you look at the scholarship, there is an Asian version which focuses on status at the top. And in an African context, there are collective needs that certainly outstrip the individual sort of self-actualization, which we just saw, which you can see on the screen at the apex. But what must education produce in the form of citizens who can think and act their way out of oppressive regimes of capitalism, enslavement, punishment, who have never had much of an opportunity to think their way either constitutionally or culturally beyond oppressive regimes that remain silent about failed sovereignty, but band-aid through aid? Cultural education, I'm suggesting, is absolutely critical, and you all are very much demonstrating that today. Our histories determine the starting point for understanding and articulating a hierarchy of needs, either at the collective or the individual level. And I want to suggest that as we consider what that apex would look like for peoples of African descent who have endured a history of enslavement, who have to craft a new society, the question becomes, what does the Caribbean citizen of the future, considering this history, look like? What education system thus would need to be in place to produce such a citizen, considering country above self, discipline, national pride, creativity, the advantage of a heightened survival instinct with heightened competition and heightened creativity? What we know is that we have been good at Black self-making. And when I talk about Black self-making, if you check the literature, this specific concept may not have appeared. Ideas of Black self-making and unmaking have been explored across fields such as psychology, education, gender studies, sociology, and ethnomusicology, with the intention, of course, to define how Blacks individually and collectively define and assert their identities, often in response to historical and ongoing oppression with some consistency. So this Black self-making I'm suggesting
is what the evidence suggests from my own research, that this is what we have done. How do I know this? I have worked on the creative products of the region, and my own viability as an academic relies on creative expression in the region. Students shouldn't have to wait till they reach the tertiary level to encounter the knowledge that I have. What have our citizens in the bowels of uprootedness and violence and discrimination produced? In the bowels of separation from ancestral culture with paradoxical space of infinite possibility, where the body was indeed a canvas, fashioning the self in spaces such as Kingston's ghettos, or turning, if you go to New Orleans, the favelas of Brazil, this sort of suffering, private pain and disease resulting from the past gives way to jab, to mokajumbi, and you can see those in the context of Trinidad's carnival or Grenada's carnival, to dinky mini in Jamaica, to dance hall in the face of this crushing impact of poverty. This is indeed a miracle, I say, of a certain kind of retribution, where infectious rhythms would love to eradicate, perpetuate like viruses, never to be contained in the spectrum of Black life. These rhythms are infectious and democratic in their affect. Just as Morgan 2014 describes, trauma's tentacles, its intrusive belatedness and rhizomatic roots, she says, they trap victims and perpetrators alike. They are infectious, therefore, and democratic, I am saying, in their affect. These are the avenues through which unresolved wounds of the past, personal and collective traumas, disease, civil wars, and unrest have been soothed, if only momentarily, when a dance floor becomes the arena to ride that rhythm to a place of safety. And I want to just share with you that those places of safety in the collective consciousness, more often than not, produced on the dance floors of the region. This is what we're talking about, that the arts have been our place of safety. There have been much self-making through the arts, much recognition, development, and justice through our own memorializing. What we know is Black self-making and placemaking. What we know is how to create self in a context where we were denied the self. These philosophies of Black self-making come to us in the words such as somebodyness. Martin Luther King Jr. used that word in one of his speeches. Smadification is another version of that from Rex Nettleford. Smaditizing from Charles Mills, the philosopher, which are intricately linked to analysis of zones of Black creativity. So I want us to really, zone in on this Black self-making through the arts, that our writers and our songwriters and our playwriters, these have all been visual artists and performing artists, the people who have led us into memorializing and self-making. I want to also remind us that the body has been a canvas where we were denied expression, that body which we owned and had sovereignty over in our minds at the very least. The Black body, what has been an archive of performance and sound, activated by the imperative to create, to celebrate through movement, music, and expression in place, and through making space where no space was ever made for us. And so this is across the Americas, from Kingston, Rio de Janeiro, New Orleans to Panama City, Johannesburg, across the Black Atlantic, as a matter of fact. This kind of importance, whether it is genres such as dancehall, reggaeton, kwaito, baile, funk, and others, we have in our own ways created and been in the process of Black self-making. Thank you very much. I don't know how much time I was given, but I think I'm surely at the end of my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your fascinating presentation, Professor Niaah. Um, So as we are drawing near to the end of the event, our judges have made their decision. So without further ado, I now give the floor to Mrs. Janelle Van Glanvigel. Oh my God, I am so sorry. OAS representative in Jamaica to announce the winners of the 2025 OAS Art and Poetry Competition and for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Gittens. Just give me 1 minute because I'm still waiting on the results from the judges who just sent it. Let me just make my notes. Okay, I think I've got it. So I won't keep you waiting any longer. We'll start right away with the announcement. So the judges decided that we only received 3 entries in the art category. So they believe that we only should award a number 1 and a number 2 winner. And the number 1 winner is Mr. Jahim Watson. And number 2 is Ms. Sherelle Webster. In the poetry category, Dejanay Allison is our winner. Shandani Taylor is the second prize winner. And Abigail Wilson is our third prize winner. Heartfelt congratulations to Dejanay, Abigail, Shandani, Sherelle, Yahim, and Ansel. But I also want to thank all 17 talented artists and poets who submitted their art and poetry to us this year for the 2025 OAS Art and Poetry Competition. And these students all came, although I should say we widely disseminated the invitation to schools all over Jamaica. We received entries from the University of the West Indies, Mona Campus, Campion College, Lister Mayor Gilby High School for the Deaf, and Holy Child High School.
I have to intervene. I think there was a mistake, a typo in the art.
In what you sent me?
Yes, it wasn't that we said no, it was that Ansel and the AI changed it to cancel, but Ansel should be awarded third. I'm sorry.
He gets his third. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Apologies.
The message that I got was cancel.
I'm seeing it now, but that was a mistake.
Okay, thank you so much for clearing that up, Dr. Thiem. So Ansel Cummings is our third prize winner in the art category. Congratulations, everybody. We thank all the teachers and school administrators who helped to disseminate the information and who encouraged their students to participate. In particular, Miss Tania Taylor of the Lister Mayor Gilby High School for the Deaf. Many thanks to our partners, Dr. Lisa Vassiani, Associate Dean for Partnerships and Resource Mobilization in the University of the West Indies, Mona Campus, Faculty of Social Sciences, and Mrs. Francesca Lloyd McDavid. We value your continued support of the work of the OAS in Jamaica. We're also very grateful to our judges, Dr. Maziki Tame, Odane Murray, and Brianna Salmon. Special thanks to Dr. Sonja Stanley Niaah, Director of the Center for Reparation Research at the UWI Mona campus, for her riveting keynote address on the theme, I Have a Dream, Recognition, Justice, Development. The Office of the OAS General Secretariat in Jamaica is most grateful for the donations of the various lovely prizes that we received for our prize winners. We thank Grace Foods, Jamaica International Financial Services Authority, and the embassies of Colombia, Costa Rica, and Mexico for so generously rewarding our talented young Jamaicans who shared their works of art and poetry with us today. Our finalists will be invited to a special handover ceremony of the prizes, which will take place at the Pan American Day celebration at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade on Monday, April 14, 2025. We should be sending you the invitation sometime tomorrow. Finally, I thank our eloquent moderator, Ms. Charlene Gittens, for a job well done. And I'm grateful for the support of my OAS colleagues, particularly my own team in the OAS office in Jamaica, Ms. Williams and Mr. Parker, for their hard work and their creativity. Working on the betterment of our young people is my passion. I was almost in tears listening to these beautiful, passionate presentations today. I hope that our contributions at the OAS, no matter how big or small, may lead to wonderful opportunities for our Caribbean youth. I'm very pleased that the Office of the OAS General Secretariat in Jamaica, with the generous support from our partners, was able to organize another art and poetry competition in the margins of the Inter-American Week for People of African Descent in the Americas. We hope that you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed putting it together for you. And in the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. So do not be afraid to keep dreaming and turn your bold and beautiful dreams into reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Van Glen. Oh my God. Mrs. Pronounce it with me.
Well, in Dutch we say Van Glanenwegel, but in Jamaica, everybody says Van Glanenwegel. So
Van Glanenwegel.
That works too. Yes.
Thank you so very much. Congratulations to all our winners. Please be sure to visit the OAS website at www.oas.org and the various OAS social media platforms to stay informed or rewatch the activities in the Inter-American Week for People of African Descent in the Americas. It has been indeed a pleasure serving as your moderator for today. Thank you all so much for joining us. Have a very good evening.